Chris, let's drill down into the gold price. Firstly, hitting a new all-time high at $1,041.40 an ounce. Where to from here? We're obviously seeing the gold miners rallying on the back of this positive momentum on the gold price.
Yeah, the only problem for the gold shares is the fact that we've got a strong rand. I mean, the rand has been strong across the dollar, the pound and the euro. So that's kind of mitigating.
But despite that, we've got Harmony up 7.5%, Goldfields up nearly 7.5%,
Exactly.
and
Yes.
Anglo Gold 6% stronger. So despite the strong rand.
The sentiment out there is definitely very, very bullish for gold counters. So it's probably going to go higher. Look, I've never been a great fan of the yellow metal myself, so I tend to distance myself from this type of thing. But you can't deny it. It's there. There is definitely great sentiment towards all of them.
Are you changing your strategy in relation to gold? As you say, you've never been a big fan of the yellow metal. Are you starting to take cognizance of it now?
Not really. Look, I mean, I think gold does perform when you get nervousness creeping into things like the dollar, for example. And the dollar's weak today, no doubt about it. And there are suggestions coming out of the Gulf states, for example, that they would like to loosen their ties with the dollar.
They have come out strongly and denied that report, though, that was doing the rounds.
I know. But I mean, we've had the Chinese earlier this year, the suggestion that the Gulf states might be doing it. I think, look, we must never lose sight of the fact that the dollar is the single biggest currency in the world and has been for 100 years plus. Of course, the euro has been around for like 10 years. So there's a huge inbuilt amount of momentum in the dollar. So to move away from that in any big quantity is going to take a long time. So, you know, I think that this huge rush from the dollar, yeah, I take that with a bit of pinch of salt. Other reasons for going into gold would be, you know, the end of the world is nigh. We're past that stage. You know, there's a lot more calm in the market. So I see this.
We're past that stage, but we are seeing this big rally in gold.
Yes. No, you're right. I've watched this over the past year and a half, 2 years. And, you know, you get these rallies, but they're not necessarily sustained. Look, we've got, I think, Anglo coming out and saying that they're looking for, what, $1,100 an ounce by year end. And, you know, you have to take these comments seriously, no doubt about it. They're very close to the action. I'm not convinced as yet. I think it's probably more of a temporary phenomenon. It might even go a bit higher. It'll probably come back again once calm comes back to the market. And I think once we start seeing some of the results coming out of the US market, Alcoa on Wednesday, and a few more, we're looking for some pretty strong earnings growth coming out of US companies, mainly prompted by substantially greater productivity in the US.
Local market, Datacentrix out with interim results today. You've obviously just heard the interview with Gary Marolo, the chairman of that company. Headline earnings per share flat. They are saying that there is poor visibility, but they are relatively optimistic, and they have managed to maintain a stable footing. Their margins are up despite revenues being down. You were at the presentation today. Can you give us any further insight? Look,
it's a good little performer. They've got lots of cash in the bank. I mean, one of the people there in the audience was bemoaning the fact that they didn't increase the dividend by more because there's plenty of scope to do so. And Gary Marolo said, look, he's a big shareholder himself, but, you know, he puts the company first. Having said that, you know, a lot of their income, 45% comes from government. And only about half of that came from government in the first half of this year. So it's telling you that government's holding back. You know, they're not spending.
Longer lead cycles is what he alluded to in that interview a moment ago.
Well, there's a few companies out there. I mean, there's a small company called Accentuate, for example, relies on government contracts for hospitals, this type of thing. They had a very, very similar type of approach 3 or 4 weeks ago in their presentation. They're saying they're holding back, but they were equally confident that the contracts will start coming through. And I think Gary is right. You know, they've got a great relationship with government. If that business is going to come, they're going to get their fair share. I've got no doubt about it. But if you strip that out of the equation, in fact, their other operations did remarkably well. So I think on balance, it actually wasn't a bad result at all.
Shoprite scouting the DRC, possibly is set to open up 2 stores there. Will that have an impact on the share price?
Don't think so. You know, Shoprite's been in the rest of Africa now for, what, 12, 13, 14 years. They know the continent extremely well. They have tended to go for the oil-rich states like Nigeria and Angola. This is a little bit of a departure for them. But having said that, you know, the Congo's just full of minerals. And as I say, they understand the continent exceptionally well. If one company from South Africa can do it well, it's Shoprite. They really understand what they're doing.
Yeah, they're still looking relatively expensive compared to their peers, aren't they?
It's pretty full. There's no doubt about it. It's run remarkably hard, and you know, it's a source of great frustration when you think it can't go any higher. It actually does. So it's got twice the market cap of its nearest competitor in the sector. It really has been a phenomenal success story.
So at 62.69, you're saying a little full though, up 0.5% today.
I see it a little bit full, but notwithstanding the fact that it really is a tremendous company.
Altron out with results yesterday, and those were pretty disappointing. Headline earnings per share down 51%. They've got problems within power tech, and also at Bytes. They're also seeing pressures on that front. And Aberdare Cables, a big drop in revenue on that front. Altron, is it one that you've been keeping an eye on?
Yeah, we would rather be in Altec, the main operating subsidiary. PowerTech, as you say, is one of the drags there. I think the residential building side obviously having an impact on companies like Altron. I say we would rather be looking at Altec. There's much more transparency as to what's actually going on there. And a lot of their new operations in East Africa and Kenya doing exceptionally well, translating almost into annuity income. It's wonderful.